Okay, so what's all this talk about signing a veteran safety? And no matter how you feel about a particular one, why might some depth be a good thing? Plus, the Jalen Hurts and Sirianni talk has gotten completely out of hand. However, the hype on Kelee Ringo continues to grow. But which players are most likely to break out for the Eagles, and which one shouldn't you be sleeping on? Let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So let me just start by putting everyone's minds at ease. After there was this rumor about the Eagles not wearing Kelee Green this season.
Kelee Green. Look at that Kelee Green.
You think they're going to bring it back next year?
Hell no, they ain't.
Damn.
Yeah, I felt the same way, except not only does that not make sense, because tons of people line the streets to get their hands on the new merchandise, but the Eagles went out of their way to get the helmet rule changed. So there's no way they break the record for the most jersey sales and then put them on ice. By the way, for the record, Slay did come back to respond, saying that he has no clue if the Keleys will be back or not. Yet I'll say it again, they were way too big of a hit to just cancel them after one season. Anyway, speaking of hits, the Eagles shared some of the biggest hits in franchise history, like safety Malcolm Jenkins absolutely leveling Brandon Cooks in the Super Bowl, or there's cornerback Asante Samuel roughing up the G-Men in 2010. Speaking of the Giants, Jerome McDougal's welcome to the NFL hit on Eli Manning was pretty vicious. And then, how about the more recent hit on Dak Prescott from Slay and Zach Cunningham to stop him short of the goal line?
Oh, look, he's flying!
Although my two personal favorites have got to be Brian Dawkins' hit on Algie Crumpler in the 2004 NFC Championship game, and then Sheldon Brown's hit on Reggie Bush in the 2008 playoffs, where he was knocked senseless. Of course, the vast majority of those would be flags nowadays, but what's your favorite Eagles hit of all time? And while we're on the topic, you'd think some of these radio stations have been knocked senseless, or maybe they need to have some sense knocked into them. After the Fanatic kept up that same Jalen Hurts and Sirianni energy with John Kincaid saying he feels like Jalen goes out of his way to not show grace or kindness to Nick Sirianni.
I don't like that, actually. I know you guys think it's fun, but I don't like that.
Okay, I'm joking about it, but Kincaid isn't, arguing that since Sirianni's fallen on the sword publicly multiple times after Jalen's refused to take responsibility for his own actions after blowing the playoff game, that Jalen should at the very least give some BS answer to have Sirianni's back. Yet if that's not crazy enough, WIP's Joe DeCamara believes owner Jeffrey Lurie is really ticked after that presser from Jalen, with QB1 playing with some fire and acting like a baby last week.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
I'm honestly sick and tired of all the drama they're trying to stir up. So maybe it's time to just go ahead and take care of that, or at the very least mute them for a few days. Because I agree with Gio that both Hurts and Sirianni probably don't care about the media drama. They just won a Lombardi trophy and there's no time for that drama, saying they've tuned it all out and are working very hard. Plus, let's be real, things aren't always what they seem. For example, just look at the Haason Reddick situation, with the 29-year-old not showing up to Jets minicamp and reportedly disgruntled since no contract's been done yet, therefore causing Haas to forfeit his $250,000 workout bonus and additional fines for missing camp. So even though it was strange at the time, it makes a little more sense why Howie Roseman was irritated with the question that it was only Reddick for a future draft pick. Because obviously hindsight's 20/20, but the longer this plays out, maybe Howie got the best value after all. Don't get me wrong, I still would have loved to have Haas on this team. However, I'm just saying the longer that this thing plays out, I'm going to give Howie the benefit of the doubt and we'll see. There's certainly unknowns in the pass rush, but I think we're going to be fine. Who knows, when all's said and done, maybe we're saying he dodged a bullet. However, like we all know, nobody's perfect, and not every move pans out, like the Kevin Byard trade last season. Although you could certainly argue that the scheme and scenery and everything else wasn't exactly the best recipe for success for the former All-Pro. But now with some depth still needed at safety, maybe there's another seasoned vet worth taking a look at.
Definitely I could go play with the Eagles. They already have a veteran secondary. I know Fangio's system. I can learn it really fast, and if he's added anything new, and then, having veteran corners. So I definitely think I could go up there and fit with those guys. Also, if they need some nickel work, go in there and play some nickel work. But I think that would be a good fit.
All right, it's fun to play hypotheticals, and I don't blame Harris for wanting to join Philly. Heck, I'm a fan of his game, except he's about to turn 35. And remember, Howie said he wants to get the defense younger. Sure, Harris was one of the best several years ago, making 3 All-Pros, 4 Pro Bowls, and winning Super Bowl 50. So obviously he's got the experience. Plus, like he said, he's familiar with Fangio's system, so it wouldn't take long to get acclimated. But personally, I think this ship has sailed. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying that I don't think the Eagles need another safety. I think we definitely do. Because it's kind of a given that C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship are the starters, yet both of them have missed more than a few games in recent seasons. And, considering the way they play, it might be nice to have more depth than just Sidney Brown back there. Now, maybe they just end up using guys from the practice squad, or Andre Sam's able to earn a spot since he's been working out with CJ/GJ, or perhaps another acquisition can get done. But like I said, I'm out on Chris Harris. What about y'all though? Anyway, while we're on the topic of stock being down, Nakobe Dean is headed in that direction, albeit yes, it's incredibly early. However, Jimmy Kempski's putting him in that category after continually being overlooked in favor of Devin White and Zack Baun during OTAs. Granted, yes, he's been recovering from the Lisfranc injury, but NBC's Reuben Frank can't make sense of it either, since Dean still got a lot of work in, just unfortunately with the second team mostly, as Frank wonders if Dean's having to pick up Fangio's system or if he's just being held off until training camp, or maybe Zack Baun is just better. Again, it was an incredibly limited sample size, but according to Brandon Lee Gowton, Zack Baun ran stride for stride with Saquon Barkley and showed a lot of fluidity at the off-ball linebacker spot, which is probably one of the reasons why Anthony DeBona is listing Baun as one of his 5 breakout candidates for the Eagles this season. And I'd consider that a major breakout if he starts and performs well. You know, since Saints writers considered Baun one of their worst draft picks in the past 5 years. Yes, I know that's not very reassuring. But Vic Fangio obviously didn't care, since remember, he was one of the first signings in free agency for Fangio's new defense. So add to it his versatility and what the defensive coordinator thinks he can get out of an Andrew Van Ginkel-esque player, and I'd agree that Baun plays well. Plus, it's no secret that the 27-year-old can get to the passer, so being able to utilize that versatility will come in handy. Which is similar to the Devin White situation, as the new Philly Mike asked Fangio to blitz him more, saying the best thing about Fangio is if you're good at something, he's going to make sure he exploits it, as the former All-Pro was making sure to show that during OTAs, and for the record, he did get a sack on Jalen Hurts during 11-on-11s. So maybe we see Fangio blitz Devin White more, which would be fantastic, but honestly to me, the most exciting part is seeing that Fangio's not stuck in his ways. Yes, he has his system, yes, he has his scheme, but he's open to doing things that really maximize the player's efficiency and his ability. Having said that, I'm really curious to see who ends up lining on the other side of Slay. Because not only did Isaiah Rodgers turn heads and wow just about everyone with his speed and quickness and anticipation, but he was making plays on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which is why Jimmy Kempski wouldn't be surprised to see the 26-year-old be strongly considered for the starting job. Of course, I hear you, we drafted Quinyon Mitchell for a reason, so why not get him out there on the field? And trust me, he'll get playing time, especially with Vic even throwing him out there as the dime linebacker at one point. But according to the Ringer, it may not be either of those guys who gets the start.
One of my big takeaways from the spring, and I try not to overrate the spring, I thought Kelee Ringo was the best cornerback on the field from the practices I saw. Second-year player. He's still younger than Quinyon Mitchell, and I thought he looked fantastic. Remember, he started 4 games last year, and I thought he acquitted himself pretty well. So having said that, if I'm looking ahead, I still think you're going to have Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay on the outside. I think you're going to have Cooper DeJean in the slot, and then I think you're going to have Reed Blankenship and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at safety. So I think that would be my guess right now, but I'm not handing that spot over to Quinyon Mitchell because I thought Kelee Ringo played really, really well in the spring, and if this is a player who's making a leap, and you're Vic Fangio, you say, I want the player who can help us beat the Packers. Yeah. I don't care who was drafted when.
I do agree that when you get drafted, it doesn't matter as long as you can produce. And even though Ringo didn't start out well in his rookie season, he eventually settled in and started making plays. So given the fact that A.J. Brown's mentioned multiple times that Kelee has all-pro potential and given him fits at times in one-on-ones, and what more could you want? Plus, think about it this way. Ringo is one of the youngest players on the team. I mean, the dude does not turn 22 until June 27th. But the fact that he got an entire year under his belt is priceless. And at 6'2", 207 pounds with the ability to run a 4.36 40, he's definitely got a shot. Now, let's remember Ringo's fluidity and hip movement was one of the biggest knocks on him last year. However, after continually focusing on it and admitting to improving all areas there, the reports from OTAs are that he looks drastically different in his movements. I mean, who knows at this point? I would still probably argue that Isaiah Rodgers gets the start, but it's a great problem to have with all this depth. Of course, for Eli Ricks, it's not the best thing, with the second-year corner getting a lot of third or even fourth-team reps during OTAs. As Ed Cracks mentioned, the 22-year-old has struggled in the limited snaps he's seen and is going to really struggle to make the team. And I won't lie, he's definitely got an uphill battle. But as we all know, practice is different than a game. Because just like last season, Ricks wasn't doing much of anything in camp, but then showed up in a big way once the lights came on to earn a roster spot. Yet at the same time, this roster is a whole lot deeper, so it's going to take a lot more than that. But I don't know, maybe he can prove some people wrong. And maybe edge rusher Bryce Huff can prove people wrong too, which is what he's used to after working his way onto the field at nearly every level, and then becoming the highest paid undrafted free agent in NFL history. Not really a surprise, since Huff boasted one of the highest pass rush win rates in the league last season. Yet it's worth pointing out that that was in a rotational basis. So, in a Vic Fangio scheme that doesn't utilize as much rotation, it's fair to wonder if he can keep up the same level of consistency. However, given the fact that Huff's always had a chip on his shoulder and said he's set on proving that he was better than all the guys drafted ahead of him, I'm in agreement that he has a really good chance of surpassing his career high of 10 sacks from last season. Having said that, are you over or under on 10 sacks for the new Agent Zero? Personally, I think Bryce Huff and Zack Baun are the prime candidates for breakout season, but if you had to only pick 2, granted there's tons and ridiculous depth on this team, but only picking 2 breakout candidates, which guys are you going with? Now, I know I didn't mention an offensive player, but Brian Baldinger believes one rookie could surprise everyone.
I would say maybe the biggest play all day I saw was from the rookie 6th-round pick out of Florida State, Johnny Wilson, who's 6'7", he's 235 pounds, and he streaked down the sideline I know they got A.J. Brown, they got Devontae Smith, but if you're an Eagle fan, just keep your eye on 89 Johnny Wilson. I mean, I think he might be one of those guys that could emerge as the season goes on.
That's some really high praise, but Johnny's definitely one of a kind, ranking 101 out of over 3,000 receivers since 1987 in terms of athleticism. Plus, as Johnny Page pointed out about Johnny Wilson, he's a walking mismatch wherever he lines up on the field. And he's not just a straight line athlete since he uses size to win in the short and intermediate game. And perhaps most importantly, the dude is really good over the middle of the field, which is a staple in Kellen Moore's offense, and we've clearly seen Jalen Hurts targeting that more based on OTAs. Plus, like Josh Norris shared, he started learning how to use his frame to win in one-on-one situations last year, while there's just about nowhere that's out of reach for the 6'7", 235-pound receiver. Oh yeah, and it's no surprise that just about everyone wants to see him in a red zone package because you'd think he could dominate there, even though he only had 2 touchdowns last year in the red zone. But remember, like Baldy said, he did take advantage of his size at OTAs, beating Isaiah Rodgers even though he was in perfect position in the red zone offense. And Wilson's also strong against press coverage due to his size and can be a good deep threat. However, like I've brought up in the past and Johnny Page mentioned again, he drops way too many balls considering his strengths and what you really want from him. So the question is, will Johnny Wilson be able to make something of his game or struggle to fully pan out like a Kelvin Benjamin? As Johnny said, if he can improve his dominance at the catch point and or learn to separate a little bit better, then he could have a successful career. Otherwise, it might be a struggle to find the field. I mean, thankfully, Philly's not even asking the Rook to come in and play or start or even have any meaningful snaps. However, it's a great luxury to have a dude like that. Anyway, I want to hear from you guys, so let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, reminder, Thomas and I have a giveaway going for a Devontae Smith meet and greet you don't want to miss. Just make sure to be subscribed to both channels and we'll do the giveaway on our Wednesday live stream. As always, make sure to hit that like button and also a really cool surprise coming soon. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.